So, hello, sons of Noah. So, we find in the Bible that Noah was promised by God that he will never send floods to kill the living life again. He even gave him a sign, which is a rainbow, as a seal. So, there is hope. Hello everyone who is watching. So this is the Bible as it is, and if you are new to this channel, my name is Nelly Shamir, and I'm reading the Bible as it is, and my type of Bible is Spiritual Renewal Bible. Spiritual Renewal Bible is by New Living Translation. So I'm going to read from the book of Genesis chapter 9 and also proceed to chapter 10. And then after that, I'm going to read the revelation, the application, the translation of chapter 8, chapter 9 and 10, sorry. So Genesis chapter 9, it's about God's covenant with Noah. God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, multiply, fill the earth, all the wild animals, large and small, and all the birds, and fish will be afraid of you. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you the grain and vegetables, but you must never eat animals that still have their life blood in them. And murder is forbidden. Animals that kill people must die, and any person who murders must be killed. Yes, you must execute anyone who murders another person. For to kill a person is to kill a living being made in God's image. Now, you must have many children and repopulate the earth. Yes, multiply and fill the earth. Then God told Noah and his sons, I am making a covenant with you and your descendants, and with the animals you brought with you. All these birds and livestock and wild animals, I solemnly promise never to send another flood to kill all living creatures and destroy the earth. And God said, I am giving you a sign as evidence of my eternal covenant with you and all living creatures. I have placed my rainbow in the living creatures in the clouds. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is the sign of my permanent promise to you and to all the earth. Then I send clouds over the earth. The rainbow will be seen in the clouds, and I will remember my covenant with you and with everything that lives. Never again will there be a flood that will destroy all life. When I see the rainbow in the clouds, I will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on earth. Then God said to Noah, yes, this is the sign of my covenant with all the creatures of the earth. Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the three sons of Noah, survived the flood with their father. Ham is the ancestor of the Canaanites. From these three sons of Noah came all the people now scattered across the earth. After the flood, Noah became a farmer and planted a vineyard. One day he became drunk on the same wine he had made and lay naked in his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked and went outside and told his brothers. Shem and Japheth took a rope, held it over their shoulders, walked backward into the tent and covered their father's naked body. As they did this, they looked the other way so they wouldn't see his naked. When Noah woke up from his drunken stupor, he learned that Ham, his youngest son, had done. He learned what Ham, his youngest son, had done. Then he cursed the descendants of Canaan, the son of Ham. A curse on the Canaanites. May they be the lowest of servants to the descendants of Shem and Japheth. Then Noah said, may Shem be blessed by the Lord my God, and may Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge the territory of Japheth, and may he share the prosperity of Shem. Yes, guys, hold on a second. Noah lived another 350 years after the flood. He was 950 old when he died. Genesis chapter 10. This is the history of the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the three sons of Noah. Many children were born to them after the flood. Descendants of Japheth. The descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. The descendants of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Rodanim. Their descendants became the seafaring peoples in various lands, each tribe with its own language. The descendants of Ham The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The descendants of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteka. The descendants of Rama were Sheba and Dedan. One of Cush's descendants was Nimrod, who became a heroic warrior. He was a mighty hunter in the Lord's sight. His name became proverbial, and people would speak of someone as being like Nimrod, a mighty hunter in the Lord's sight. He built the foundation for his empire in the land of Babylonia, with the cities of Babel, Enrich, Akkad, and Calneh. From there, he extended the reign to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Kala, and Resen, the main city of the empire located between Nineveh and Kala. Yes. Canaan, Miriah was the ancestor of the Ludites, Anamites, Lehabatites, Naphtahites, Parusites, Kaslahites, and the Kashtorites. Canaan also son was Sidon, the ancestor of Sidonians. Canaan was also the ancestor of Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sanites, Avadites, Demadites, Hamathites, and so on. Eventually, the Ammonites and Hamadites, and eventually the territory of Canaan spread from Sidon to Gerar, near Gaza, and to Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, near Lasha. These were the descendants of Ham, identified according to their tribes, languages, territories, and nations. Descendants of Shem. Sons were also born to Shem, the older brother of Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the descendants of Eber. The descendants of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. The descendants of Aram were Uz, Hal, Gether, and Mash. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah, and Shelah was the father of Eber. Eber had two sons. The first was named Peleg, division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups and dispersed. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almodad, Shiles, Hazavez, Jira, Hadoram, and so on. So, let me see, chapter 10, it goes Hamadad, Uzal, Dikal, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, Jobab. The descendants of Joktan lived in the area extending from Mesha toward the eastern hills of Sephar. These were the descendants of Shem, identified according to their tribes, languages, territories, and nations. These are the families that came from Noah's sons, listed nation by nation according to their lines of descent. The earth was populated with people of these nations after the flood. That is the end of the Bible reading, Genesis chapter 10. So I'm stepping back to Revelation of chapter 9. Explanation of chapter 9. Noah and his family were the only people left after the flood. The comforts of civilization had been washed away. They had to start all over again. God gave Noah his special blessing and instituted a plan that if followed would result in a healthy society. God has given us his word which contains the ultimate blueprint for healthy living. And just as God gave the human race a new start with Noah, he can give each of us a new start too. God assigned Noah the monumental task of rebuilding human society on earth. But God didn't just hand Noah the task and walked away. As we see in this passage, God gave Noah hope and set a rainbow in the sky as a seal of his promise. As we are rebuilding our lives in keeping with God's design, we can be sure that God will support us with his presence and promises, and we should keep an eye out for the rainbows along the way. God often leaves us signs to remind us of his loving presence and care. With all the talk of Noah's righteousness and his fellowship with God, it is surprising to read that by his choice, he fell prey to the excess of alcohol. The account of Noah's drunkenness and shame comes as a shock to the reader, but it is a reminder that even in ideal conditions, it is easy for us to slip and fall. We can never relax and feel as if we have it made. For that is when we become most vulnerable to sin. This chapter is often called the Table of Nations. It is refreshing to realize that the God we worship is not a local deity. He is sovereign, and all ethnic and language groups, nations, and political entities. God, who holds kings and empires in his hands, surely has the power to hold us too. So, Abraham and Sarah. I'm going to read about that in the next chapter because I feel it's too long to continue with that. So I'm going to read that in the next chapter. Thank you for listening. From the reading, I've learned something. I've learned that God set a rainbow to remind us of the promise. So the promise was he will never again send floods to kill people. That was the promise. So the rainbow is a sign, it's a seal. It reminds us of God's promise. Whenever we fall, whenever we feel weak, that is a sign of God's promise that he will never leave us. So thank you for watching, and please share because I learned CRA from when I was a little baby until I went to my high school and finished my high school. But there are things I've forgotten, and I'm refreshing. I'm reminding myself. So read with me, and share, please. Thank you so much for watching and subscribe. Bye bye.